YouTube, it's Tone back with another one for you. And so this one today is continuation of Cracking the Code. Cracking the Code 3. This is the 15th installment of this here. And we'll talk about corporate citizenship and Social Security in this one. So let's go ahead and get right into this thing. Let's get right into this. Which, I'm even still mind blown that anybody could become a citizen of something that is not real. It's a corporation. Now, how are you a citizen? how are you a citizen of that? Cut it out. So anyway, corporate citizenship. 2.5 years after the act of July 27th, 1868, the U.S. government went into business as a for-profit municipal corporation on February 21st, 1871. Shortly after the War of 1812, there was some serious shit that went down in 1812 too. That's when the mud floods took place and all that. That was all war crimes. So it is interesting that the quarterly list of expatriates is now officially entered into the Federal Register, a legal newspaper published every business day. According to its literature by a non-U.S. government company, Internal Revenue Service (IRS), a commercial business whose two greatest expenses are postage and rent. Government agencies do not pay postage and rent. Okay, so is an intelligence gathering, accounting, and collection agency for the private Federal Reserve and is domiciled in Puerto Rico under a Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, Secretary of Treasury. So who is also governor of the World Bank and governor of the International Monetary Fund. So basically, they're all operating out of here, out of PR. So both of which are headquartered in Washington, D.C. And these agencies aren't necessarily evil in and of themselves, but they do a lot of grimy shit, though. But I guess that could be said for just about anybody in America if you ever been there. So the secretary is also in charge of all the private bank paper, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserves on his Federal Reserve employers and his employees, the full might of the Department of Treasury, another non-U.S. government private business, in monitoring every institution, corporation, business, individual that deals in FRNs, Federal Reserve notes. There is abundant evidence that U.S. citizenship is actually corporate citizenship. Of course it is. As well as being under the ultimate control of a private business, the IRS, as described above. Official list of parties who have renounced U.S. citizenship also includes a corporation, RBC Reinsurance of Canada. RBC Reinsurance renounced its U.S. citizenship in the second quarter of 2000. Since the artificial person corporation is listed as an expatriate, meaning that you canceled your citizenship, it can be reasonably assumed that the RBC Reinsurance at one time immigrated and became a citizen of the United States. Based on this and other revelatory facts, it may be safely surmised that the only type of entity that can ever become a citizen of the United States is an artificial person, right? And so that's the thing too. When it comes to your ID and all that shit, like that shit is not you. You know what I mean? So checking the spelling of your name on your passport, driver's license, sales permits, credit cards, certificates of title, etc., you will discover that the name imprinted thereon is in all capital letters. The standard method for designating the name of corporations and corporately colored entities, which practice also falls completely outside the accepted rules of English grammar for the spelling of proper names of men and women. An all caps name designates an artificial person, i.e. corporation, corporately colored entity. Further, the prosecutor in Cooper confirmed in open court that the U.S. citizenship is based on contract rather than the situs of one's birth, right? So you're an American national, if you will, as soon as you're born, right? And then you somehow get signed up when you're a baby into becoming a U.S. citizen. Okay, so one of the 50 several states, for example, the judge in the Cooper case also admitted of two different types of citizenship simultaneously, American and U.S. It can therefore be reasonably concluded that the U.S. citizenship is indeed some kind of corporately colored citizenship, and that the American citizenship is held by men and women and boys and girls born in one of the 50 several states. Okay, so it's important to know who you are, because how can you really have a freaking defense against anything if you don't even know who you are and where you are, especially where you are? That shit is great. So the nature of Social Security. So we'll get into that. A primary method by which the United States contracts with its customers is through Social Security and the payment of payroll taxes. Briefly, taxes are levied upon the debt of the United States Congress in favor of the private Federal Reserve Bank. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the United States Congress, after declaring bankruptcy, contracted with the international banker owners of the Fed, who caused the bankruptcy by swindling America's gold for loans of credit money created out of thin air, presented as the New Deal. And all this gold and silver shit. You guys don't even want me to get in on that. You don't even want me to start on that. So another cash cow, other than personal income tax, was needed to saddle the American people with joint responsibility co-servitorship obligations for the trillions of dollars in interest charges that would be generated courtesy of the presidential Congress treasury. The Social Security system, with Social Security payroll taxes, was devised for this purpose. The Social Security contract is essentially an unconscionable bargain because it binds every account holder to the stratospheric debt of the U.S. government. You see how they're tricking everybody into paying that shit? So, which is crazy, because why wouldn't they just discharge the fucking debt? That shit is that shit is uncalled for. So, because you can. So, and that's actually all payable to the American people. So they actually owe all that debt, all the national debt is actually payable to the American people. Okay, via OID discount, right? Okay, so in the landmark 1937 case, Helvering versus Davis, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Social Security is a form of welfare. Right, so that they're assuming that you're taking the benefit now. The scheme of old age benefits created by Title II of the Social Security Act of August 14, 1935, providing for the payment of such benefits and authorizing future appropriations to an account to be set up by the Treasury for the purpose sufficient to provide for the contemplated benefits, is within the power of Congress to spend money in aid of the general welfare, underline emphasis added. So because of this fact, application for and use of a Social Security account number is a tacit confession that one is so incompetent in managing his own affairs that he or she must appoint the U.S. government as his guardian to seek eligibility for welfare programs. Such status is also known by other names, e.g. child of the state, ward of the court. Okay, so those are those who are incapable of caring for themselves. Social Security account holders and their surety are subjects of the doctrine of the parents, defined as follows. So it's going to constitute this here. So legally, acceptance of a benefit, welfare, the protection of the state is the equivalent of the acquisition of a legal right in exchange for a promise, albeit a tacit promise, but a promise nonetheless, without which any such benefit would not have been possible. So essentially, in order for you to sign up for Social Security and all that, you have to essentially admit, or what you're doing is admitting, that you're incapable of taking care of yourself, and you need their little program to somehow keep you afloat. Mind you, the whole time you're paying in and you never get it, and every year that you get older, they're gonna push the fucking age up until everybody dies before they get it. So translation: the fact of having acquired a legal right, welfare protection of the state, is evidence that you must have made some kind of promise, pledge, responsibility for payment of the debt of the United States government. In the beginning, that facilitated this outcome and the enjoyment of such benefits, as well as merely eligibility for such benefit, retirement benefits, right to contributions from other payroll taxpayers discussed below. And that's what that would be. It's a fucking Ponzi scheme, right? So by the time you get to where you're collecting Social Security, all you're doing, it is literally a welfare program, because whoever's paying in, that's where you're getting your check from. Okay, so it is a fucking welfare program. So this concept is spelled out particularly clearly in the 1960 U.S. Supreme Court, Fleming versus Nestor. The right to a Social Security benefit is in a sense earned, for the entire scheme rests on the legislative judgments that those who in their productive years were functioning members of the economy may justly call upon the economy in their later years for protection from the rigors of the poorhouse, as well as haunting fears that such a lot awaits them when their journey's end is near. The reason for the words right and earned appear in quotes within the above passages because there is no guaranteed right in Social Security benefits, and nothing is actually earned, no vested interest, right? So to engraft upon the Social Security system a concept of accrued property rights would deprive it of the flexibility and boldness in adjustment to ever-changing conditions which it demands. Notice also Fleming cite that the former functioning members of the economy can only call upon that economy. other than active Social Security payroll taxes at the time of retirement for protection from the rigors of the poorhouse. Retirees can only hope that the economy will support them because Social Security does not have to and may decide against it. So you may not even get your money. So as documented below, the so-called economy cannot provide Social Security benefits for anyone born after 1970, and the vast majority of others born before them will receive only partial benefits. So nobody has any accrued property rights, no vested interest, no guaranteed retirement benefits by virtue of paying Social Security payroll taxes, as attested in Carley and Hamilton versus Snook. The constitutional power to levy taxes did not depend upon the employment by the taxpayer of any special benefit from the use of the proceeds raised by taxation. Payment of Social Security benefits from the Social Security system is strictly discretionary, not obligatory. So you don't have an obligation to pay these people. That shit is all voluntary. I mean, taxes are voluntary, slavery is voluntary, okay? And they're tricking people into contracting into slavery on some bullshit. So thus, by law and by contract, when a Social Security payroll taxpayer retires, FICA, and the Social Security system is not required to compensate the they don't this is in their own laws right here. But they don't even have to pay you. So Social Security payroll taxpayer, another reason why Social Security is an unconscionable bargain. FICA, what is this? Federal Insurance Contributions Act. On every pay stub of a payroll check, you will find the term FICA, Federal Insurance Contribution Act. This title is misleading for more than one reason. And so let's get into that. Let's get into that. So the word insurance in the title does not involve any actual insurance policy. And you know what's crazy? I mean, they're all here holding these bonds, you know, worth hundreds of millions on each person. And why do you need fucking insurance if you they have a bond there that they can set off any obligations that you have using the bond via the Treasury Department? Why would you ever have to pay insurance when they can just send you the bill? You can fucking discharge it through the through the Treasury. That shit is a scam. Let's just call it what it is. So the word insurance in the title does not involve any actual insurance policy for the party paying the taxes, as stated above in Fleming versus Nestor. A Social Security payroll taxpayer has no vested interest in Social Security. If there was a valid insurance contract in the name of the party paying the premiums, that party would have a vested interest in the contract, right? And so that's what you would imagine. But such is not the case. Payments are taxes, not premiums, and taxes are illegal, especially taxes on labor. Okay, that's just slavery. So, you know, the term income is profits made from, or profits and or dividends made from any stocks, bonds, investments, and things of that nature. That is income. Everything else is a private contract between you and another agency for your labor, and that shit is not able to be taxed. Okay, so but they still do it. I mean, everybody's willingly paying it. You know what I mean? The people ain't putting a gun to your head. You just fucking letting it slide because you choose to. So rather, the insurance part of the title means federal insurance, i.e. insurance for the federal government's debt in favor of the Federal Reserve Bank. The word contributions in the title of the act, this word does not mean what most people think it means. In legal matters, this term only has one connotation, as demonstrated by the following definitions of contribution. When two or more persons jointly owe a debt and one is compelled to pay the whole of it, the other is bound to indemnify him for the repayment of their shares. This indemnity is called a contribution. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. So when one of several debtors pays a debt, the creditor is bound in conscience, if not by contract, to give the party paying the debt all his remedies against other debtors. So essentially, you're forfeiting your right to really have any rights when you're contracting with these people. Okay, so you go from having rights to having privileges that they allow you to have. So a right to contribution exists in the case of debtors who owe a debt jointly, which has been collected from one of them. Bouvier's Law Dictionary. So therefore, in the Act's title, Federal Insurance Contribution Act, bunch of actors you're dealing with, by the way. Keep that in mind. So contribution is not referencing the Social Security payroll taxes that are paid in by the taxpayer, but rather the nebulous right of the taxpayer to receive contributions, reimbursement from other taxpayers. So that's what it's just a big ass Ponzi scheme, and they're just taking their cut too. What are they even doing with the money? So upon retirement, after having paid off his or her entire fair share of the U.S. government's debt with a lifetime of labor, without ever revealing the fact that the Social Security scheme provides the retiring Social Security payroll taxpayer is the right to assert, expect, and hope that other taxpayers who have not yet fully paid their fair share by working and paying over a lifetime will at least reimburse him or her with the meager stipend necessary for minimal survivor in exchange for his 40-year attempt at paying off the national debt. Mathematical impossibility. It is a mathematical impossibility. The fucking debt could never be paid because they don't even have enough freaking Federal Reserve notes in freaking circulation to pay the shit. You know what I mean? So say they create $1 and they lend you the dollar, but they're gonna charge you 50% on it. Now you owe them $1.50. Where are you gonna get that other 50 cents from if it doesn't exist? The shit is a scam. The shit is a scam. So what is it? Mathematical impossibility. Chance that the average taxpayer will ever recover the full amount paid in over the work years, 0%. 0%. 0%. So you're definitely not getting that. So, you know, it is the game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these clowns. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.